Recovery is a strange process. You don't feel like a hero, more like a salt monster emerging from a storm, weak, brittle, and alien in your own skin. Elizabeth held the apartment key in her hands like a sacred relic. It was a thread connecting her to before, to the life where she was Alex's wife, an interior designer, a person who planned the future. The door creaked open with a different squeak. It was smudged, as if it had been used often. The first thing that hit her was an unfamiliar floral scent instead of the familiar smell of coffee and old parquet. A strange pastel-coloured coat hung in the hallway. On the shelf where she always kept her hats stood a pair of expensive size 38 sneakers. She wore a size 39. "Hey, who's there?" Alex's voice came from the living room, cheerful and carefree. He came out to greet her, holding a glass of red wine. He froze when he saw her. The glass almost slipped from his fingers. His face, so familiar, went through stages: shock, bewilderment, panicked calculation, and finally, poorly acted joy. "Liz, God, you weren't supposed to be until tomorrow. We would have met." He rushed to embrace her, but his embrace was harsh, quick, as if he wanted to drag her away from where she stood. Behind him, she appeared in the doorway. Young, about 25, in the silk robe Elizabeth had bought in Paris. She nervously adjusted her damp hair. "Alex, what happened?" She fell silent, understanding everything in one glance. The silence hung thick as could be. Elizabeth silently walked past them into the living room. Everything was different. New furniture, a different wall colour, someone else's paintings. Her collection of vintage candlesticks was gone. On the table lay a tablet with a Pinterest board open for wedding dresses. "Explain," Elizabeth said quietly, looking not at Alex, but at the girl in her robe. "Liz, this is Christina. She helped me get through it. The doctors said there was almost no chance. I was desperate." The words poured out of him in a jumbled, rehearsed stream. "I thought I needed to move on, for my own mental health. And then it turned out Christy had, well, you know." "What about Christy?" Elizabeth turned to him, and a cold fire blazed in her eyes, so recently, so tired. "We're having a baby," she stated firmly, hiding her hands in the pockets of her robe. "Alex and I love each other. You have to understand, you were practically a corpse." The word corpse hung in the air. Elizabeth slowly glanced around the room, this alien, emasculated life built on her supposed death. She saw Alex's hand trembling, Christina trying to look confident, and then she laughed. It was a quiet, chilling laugh that made Alex's lips turn white. "Practically a corpse. How poetic." She wiped away a tear that had formed with laughter. "I spent 3 months in the hospital, fighting for every breath, thinking only about getting home. And you, Alex, have already managed to sell my attic studio for a gym, throw out my things, and conceive a child. You really haven't wasted any time." "Liz, Shut up." Her voice hardened. "I want to show you something the doctors were apparently too embarrassed to tell you. They thought my support at home knew." She opened her old bag, the one she carried with her to the hospital, and pulled out a folder of documents. Without looking, she pulled out several sheets of paper and placed them on the new, unfamiliar coffee table. "This isn't just my discharge papers," Elizabeth said, her finger resting on the line. "These are the results of the genetic testing I initiated when the disease subsided. I knew about the risks to future children, and, as it turns out, for good reason. See this column, Alex? High probability of inheritance. You're a carrier. almost 100% transmission. She looked at Christina, whose face had begun to slowly crumble like dough. My corpse will now haunt you, dear. In every doctor's visit, in every ultrasound, in every fear for what you carry beneath your heart. You built your happiness on my grave, but I'm alive, and my illness is now your cross to bear. Alex grabbed the papers, his eyes darting over the lines. This can't be.
Yes, Elizabeth interrupted. She picked up her small hospital bag. I won't stay here, in this museum of my betrayal. But know this, I won't disappear. I'll come back, for what's legally mine, for half of this apartment, which you, Alex, so beautifully furnished with our shared money, for the emotional damages, for everything. She turned and walked toward the exit, leaving a deathly silence in her wake. She paused at the threshold. Oh, and Alex, congratulations on becoming a father. I hope your new life was worth it. The door closed behind her with a soft click. In an apartment reeking of someone else's perfume, two people remained, their new life having just been shattered at the seams, and the ghost on which they had built it had walked out the door, alive, healthy, and merciless. Alex's worst nightmare had just begun.